Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Sports Gamer, and welcome back to the Wraparound. My name is Toogie, and this is the show where we take a look at all that the ECL has to offer from our new tier in Neo, the new beginnings, people starting their journeys in the e-hockey world, and of course the dizzying heights of the Elite Division, where the best of the best go toe to toe. And of course, it is a very exciting time here within the ECL. We are approaching the final week of regular season play for our Winter 24 campaign. If you can believe that, it is nearly playoff time, which means now is the perfect time to take a look through everything that is going on, setting the stage for what should be a very exciting week of action to come. But before we get into talking about things on a tier-by-tier basis, we need to mention, of course, a couple of things that are going on. And, of course, if you've watched broadcasts over the last few weeks, you would have heard us mention for our Finnish audience the PlayStation Showdown, for those of you on the PS5 side of things. And, again, only our Finns for this particular competition. It is going to be a very interesting tournament, to say the least, starting up this week as well, but it's not too late to get involved. 1v1 and 4v4 formats available. sportsgamer.gg/showdown will bring you to this page and give you all of the information that you need. But again, as you can see, we are starting up very, very soon. So make sure to get involved if you haven't already. But of course, this is not the only tournament that's going to be going on. We have a new tournament to announce, the Leonat e-Hockey Open. This one designed a little bit more for the casual audience or those looking to get involved in the e-hockey scene. Also 1v1 and 4v4 tournament options available. sportsgamer.gg/Leonat will bring you to this page, and you can get involved here in this particular tournament as well, starting up, as you can see, in the new year. So make sure to get involved with these particular tournaments, of course. But with that, we have a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. Let's talk about the ECL's Elite Division, our top tier, the best of the best, going head to head. And this is where things stand as we approach our final week of play. It is Tunnel Vision, our defending champions, again dominated in NHL 23. They are currently top of the table with the top 8 teams on pace to make the playoffs. Again, finishing between 9th and 12th guarantees you safety for our spring season, while 13, 14, and 15 would be in a relegation battle with the Pro Division runner-ups. And of course, the team in 16th automatically relegated. But as you can see here, 22 games for Lextugan, currently in 16th, while a couple of different teams have already finished their 30-game regular season. So we'll take a look at the point pace on the season so far to give us kind of a more accurate picture as to what is going on. And as you can see, that means it's Yippee Voskala who are currently on pace to take that number 1 seed away from Tunnel Vision, 2 games at hand over the defending champions and just 4 points back. Not nearly as big of a problem in terms of overcoming that this year as it would have been in previous seasons due to the 3 points for regulation wins. So despite the fact that Tunnel Vision are on an amazing pace right now, no guarantees that they will be our number 1 seed. And of course, Strikers, H-Reds, still within striking distance. They'd need a little bit of help, I would say, through the schedules, but the top 4 looking strong, and what a top 4 that is. But as we go a little bit further down, Mayhems, Radical, Vesapampa, all on pace to be in the playoffs. They're not in a guaranteed spot by any stretch of the imagination. We'll talk about that in a second. And Unwanted as well. 4th on the table right now, but again, one of the teams that has played their full season's worth of games. They are holding on to a playoff spot by a thread is the best way to put it, because you have the Blackjacks, 6 games at hand. Polsky Boys, our Pro Division champions from last season, still 4 games at hand, close to securing a spot and pretty much there in terms of surviving this season and having their spot for spring. They might even be able to sneak into the playoffs by the end of this, which would be a tremendous accomplishment for them. it's really goons in terms of the teams in safety spots right now that needs to be a little bit worried if the Fallon Coal Miners or Roots can really start in Poggers as well. I mean, again, you talk about that 12 points up for grabs if Roots or Poggers were to be perfect with regulation wins in their last 4 games. They have an opportunity to do so. So nothing exactly set in stone at this point of the season. Going to be very intrigued to see who locks down what spots in the standings. And I mentioned Lex Dugan currently at the bottom of the table, 13 points through 22 games. But we talked about that new point structure. They're not out of it yet. There was a lot of talk about, okay, Lex Dugan, Poggers, who's going to finish at the bottom of the table, some self-deprecating humor along the way. We'll see which team ends up at the bottom. And hey, if your Roots are the Fallon Coal Miners, you can't exactly take this next week off either. No guarantees who will finish at the bottom of the table. Sets the stage, honestly, for an exciting end to this regular season. But let's take a look at some of the numbers here as well. Love to kind of point out who's doing well. And in terms of the top 5 right now in point production, of course, it's Benito. He always seems to be up there. Even if H-Reds aren't exactly at the top of the table, they are top 4. And Benito has been absolutely stellar. 65 points in first place right now, ahead of Leitinen and Vatu, the teammates of Tunnel Vision, tied at 59. And then talk about a story of this season with Unwanted, whether or not they end up making the playoffs or not. We have Leku, who is currently 4th in scoring as a rookie. Player to keep an eye on in the future here. Might as well go down, or might very well go down as the rookie of the season. But as we'll talk about in a second, there's some competition in that regard. And of course, Eki rounds out our top 5. But impressive to see Leku up there. Look at the company that he holds at the moment with some of the other names there. In terms of our top goal scorers as well, big shout out to Koloslav right now. Was plenty of Elite Division experience, but takes a big step up so far through this season. Has competition in the forms of Benito, Leitinen, Eki. Vatu's up there, currently tied on 28 goals with Vere of Radical. So again, the goal scoring race not yet decided either. That does bring us over to our defensemen. Love to give some credit there. And right now it's Landstrom of Jyväskylä, 41 points in 22 games. Very, very solid there. But in second, another member of Unwanted and another rookie as well for this Unwanted team in Kayseri with 39 points at the end of their season. Unwanted, I'm intrigued to see what happens, because when you have players doing this well, a lot of times you have the bigger clubs, the more established elite clubs come knocking for players of this caliber. But man, if you can keep this young core together with these 2 additions, if you don't make the playoffs this year, I could easily see it happening in the future. Because again, look at some of the familiar names that are here. King of Apes, Tombo, Domi. I mean, it's incredible company to keep, to say the least. And then, of course, his defensive partner in Unwanted in Snus, 6 goals, leading the way amongst defensemen. Although Tony, Carcass, Tapu doesn't quite have time, 30 games played, but you get the point. There's some good company there, and at least a couple of people who could still very much make the push to take away that top goal scoring crown. And to round out the rookie conversation, because that really was what jumped off the page for me here, you look at goalies, the winningest right now, Kazu of Jyväskylä, Finsere, a former goaltender of the season, up there for H-Reds. Then we have another big rookie in Simbano, who was up there for the Blackjacks. 14 wins, 82.6 save percentage on the season. This has been an awesome rookie class. You have Kosti up there as well in 4th in terms of wins, really in a tie there with Viltsup. You look at the 14, but that was really kind of the takeaway for me, is just how well some of these rookies are doing this season. And of course, in terms of top save percentage for those starters, I mean, we can consider Sibelius as a starter at this point. 12 games played for Tunnel Vision, and while he's been viewed as more of a coach in recent memory, still an elite goaltender to say the least. Kazu up there as well, might just be the favorite for goalie of the season. Pelkinen up there for Radical, over 85% as well. So don't discount anybody, I would say, in regards to who could be the rookie of the season, the goaltender of the season. A lot of close races going on here stats-wise, but that is your look at the Elite Division. Let's talk about the ECL's Pro Division, as we have another pretty interesting set of numbers here to take a look at, not only, of course, with standings, but with stats as well. Of course, within our Pro Division, we have the top two groups. And right now, let's focus on group number one. Gotham Knights still at the top, 65 points in 26 games. Not looking like they'll be caught and will be finishing as a number one seed unless something drastic were to happen. Mustakalta, Vizio, Nova up there as well. But it is a relatively close race, as you'll see. We'll go to the points percentage here. It's Gotham Knights again at a 2.5. Only one other team, that being Mustakalta, over a 2.0. But look at this. Hervlev Eagles jump up to third. Renascore from 8th to 4th. So again, it's going to come down to who can make the most of the games at hand moving forward, although it does only change up the seeding that we have. The top 8, as you can see, remain intact. As we get to the 9 through 11 spots, again, these would be the teams that are safe from any kind of relegation battle and would secure their spot in Pro next season. We have Certatalia, Cheeky Grinders, and Deadly Phantoms currently in that mix. And again, you can see the difference in games played. Just 16 for a team like Deadly Phantoms. Vizio already done with their season. So again, time will tell to see how this plays out, as Hokarit, Punakala, Athletic Bulls trying to get back into the mix. It's not too late, but again, with the massive discrepancy in games played, you just don't know how it's going to play out at this stage. And of course, Athletic Bulls still just 14 games played. The bottom two right now, Red Bull, Munich Esports, Ice Baron, Alauf Gaming are bottom two. Still surprised to see the Ice Baron boys here, based off the games I get to call for them on broadcast 2 weeks ago or so, maybe even longer at this point. Time's flying, to say the least. But just the 2 regulation wins surprises me a little bit. I feel like they are capable of more, but it just hasn't clicked for them. It's not too late, of course, to dig yourselves out of that mess, but it's getting close to that standpoint. For Group 2 right now, it is Opera Hockey at the top, Arctic Purification, some of the teams that we have seen in the mix in Pro over the last couple of seasons. Of course, you have Powerhouse, who are in the kind of forfeit role at this stage, so there's only that one extra spot where you just really don't want to finish, as you'll be automatically relegated down. Right now, it is Golden Sticks occupying that position. And of course, as we look at the points percentage, not nearly as drastic of a change here in terms of seeding, just Purification and Arctic, and then Björklöven Esports and Gunners swapping their spots. But it gets a little bit more interesting as you scroll down into the safety and potential relegation positions. As you can see here, it is Xbots down in 13th, Ultimatum kind of drop a little bit. So not the kind of craziest run at this stage in terms of, just how drastically things could change. But you talk about Savalanche, Xbots, Ultimatum. These are teams that could still push clubs like Supernatural for one of those safety positions. But again, Supernatural still have 12 games to go this season. So still a lot to be decided within our Pro tier. But let's take a look at some of the numbers, some of the stats that are out there right now. As you get a look here at the top skaters, Jageri right now, 65 points in 25 games, 34 goals as well, leading the way for Mustakalta. We've seen Nestor on broadcast for Nova in the past, very, very solid player. And of course, in third place, Launanex up there as well for Mustakalta. That has been a great 1-2 punch for that team this season. Some Gotham Knights representation with Rimpe and then Artuzio as well in 5th right now in scoring. But again, that regular season is over with for Vizio as they are looking forward towards the playoffs. Your top goal scorer right now is Rimpe on 40. Yetsu up there with 36. So top goal scorer yet to be decided as well. Keep an eye out on that one. As we look over at the top defensive players, it's a pretty close race, but look at this representation here for Gotham Knights with the elite veteran in Elmari alongside Borjan Dahlin. Gotham Knights, again, we talked about it with the standings, maybe the favorite in pro to make their way up to elites. It's going to take a very strong effort from whoever they run into come playoff time to knock this team off. It's a good mix, of course, with some of that elite division experience, and that's often what propels those pro clubs to the next level. And of course, we have other mentions here. Tonski, Sile, you talk about that elite division experience. Some of these teams have it in spades. We'll see if that translates, though, come playoff time. And of course, for goaltenders, the winningest right now, shout out to the Speedo, maybe the best name in all of pro, up there for Mustakalta with 16 wins. Baronizer up there for Nova as well. But when it comes to save percentage amongst the starters, one person stands out above the rest right now, and that is Sundstrom for Gifu Hockey, nearly an 88% on the season so far. Of course, you could talk about, hey, at 10 games, are we considering that a starter? I mean, obviously, we kind of look for over the halfway point. So next up would be Takedown for Powerhouse HC, someone else to keep an eye on. The only other goaltender right now in terms of that starter category that is over an 87% save percentage. That is your look at our pro division. Again, still a lot to play for and a lot to be decided with a lot of games to be made up for some of these clubs. Let's talk about the light division of the ECL, our third tier, and still a lot to be decided in this particular division as well, even though we are getting close to the end of the regular season. Taking a look at Group 1, surprise, surprise, Hexa Esports still up there as the top dogs. 19 of their 20 wins coming in regulation. Certainly a good way to try and secure yourself that top seed, but man, oh man, do they have some competition. Just 1 point separating themselves and 6 sticks. Misfits, a name, I gotta be honest, I'm not looking forward to potentially calling on a broadcast because that is a tongue twister and a disaster waiting to happen. Almost Famous still very much in the mix as well. Those are the 3 teams over the 2 points per game mark in Group 1 right now. And as you take a look here, via points percentage, not too drastic of changing in terms of seeding. Right now, it is Ace Squad, who are done with their 30 games, that find themselves perhaps in a little bit of trouble if some of these teams can make up ground with their remaining games. And of course, some teams right now certainly finding themselves in a spot where they don't want to be in. But again, you talk about the teams that are a little bit lower down, trying to get better seeding for playoffs and relegation playoffs. There is still a long way to go there. You look at Northern Dust, just 20 games played, still 10 left. Same for Armada Hockey. There is time to turn it around. As we look at Group 2, as we have Pasalan SKA at the top, 28 games played, Bone Breakers in the mix as well. Toxic City also over that 2 point per game mark right now. But as you would have seen, based off of the games played, it is Bone Breakers right now who do kind of control their destiny within Group 2 to be able to take away that top spot if they can make the most of their games. Toxic City still very much in that conversation as well. Will have to play pretty well, though, to make up some of that ground. Again, right now, only 1 regulation win behind Bone Breakers, so there is that opportunity moving forward. And of course, as you go further down into the mix, you can see just how close things are. Really starting with the Icemen here at a 1.38 points per game mark, and just how close things are right now towards the bottom half. Plenty of room for movement throughout the standings as we continue on. I mean, even for the worst team in the group at a 0.92, we scroll back up here and a 0.46 for Dark Energy HC. Not to throw you guys under the bus, but that just shows how close Group 2 has been so far this season. And of course, our third group right now at the top, Neptune Hockey, who have finished up their 30-game regular season. Invasion, Technical Disaster, and Eastman Valinta, all with at least that 2 point per game mark, trying to vie for that top seed. And of course, as you go a little bit further down, you can see some of the drop-offs. I mean, Dampa, basically the walkover team. Deggendorfer, though, at a 0.52 as well. So you can see how close Group 2 happens to be. But as we look at the points percentage, it is Invasion who have the chance. You need 1 point to take that top spot away from Neptune Hockey. Technical Disaster only able to finish with a maximum of 65 points. So that top seed will go to one of these two teams. Obviously, you'd favor Invasion to be able to pick up a point. 7-2-1 in their last 10. More than likely going to get it done. The only drastic change here, though, look at this, from 14th up into one of those higher seeds. Just 18 games played will give you that opportunity to make up ground. We'll see if they're able to do so. A lot of ground to make up, though, as you can see. I mean, especially you talk about the teams that are going to be able to make it into the playoffs, the 3-group system that we have. It is the top 32 teams, though, that do make it into the playoffs. Comes down to seeding, though, and that can be a very important factor in terms of playoff success. Although in the past, in light, we've seen some pretty big upsets. With that, though, taking a look at the top scorers, we talk about Invasion and their chance to step forward here, and Liamovic is right there as a reason why. 84 points, 45 goals on the season. Holy Flyer, Adrift up there as well in the top 3, all with at least 78 points. And of course, A-Squad have finished their season, so you'd expect to see their forward core up there as they have those games at hand, but still very respectable numbers. All 3 primary forwards with at least 71 points on the season. You would like to think, of course, that they'd be able to translate that to the playoffs, but hey, you never know. Keep an eye on them, though. Dangerous group there. Defensively as well, 3 players over 40 points right now. And, man, got to shout him out at this point and butcher the name. I'm going to call him Mayor. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to cop out of the gamer tag at this point. I just got to say, though, 41 points in 22 games, only 1 point behind the leader who has 6 more games played. Don't fail me. That's my request. Lead the way, win the defensive scoring race, and tell me how to say your name correctly. I can give it a try, but as we've learned, I can embarrass myself quite often, and we're trying to avoid that today, as if we haven't already done so. And of course, amongst the goaltenders, the winningest right now, tied at 21 wins apiece. Ranta for the Misfits and Dobby the Joker up there for Invasion. But in terms of the save percentage king, I mean, aside from the real guru on a 97% through 2 games, if you look amongst starters, I'm surprised that one got through. Hell of a name. With a name, playing for a team like Toxic City, though, I'm not really surprised. Still, 90% save percentage in 23 games played. Very well may go down as goaltender of the season. That is your look at our light division. It's an interesting one. Let's take a look at the ECL core division. A lot to look at in this particular division as well. Again, the top 8 from each group making the playoffs of our 4 groups. See? Case in point, there's a lot to look at. Let's go back to the very top, though. Group 1 as leading the way. You look at the top 3 teams, of course, over that 2 points per game mark that we look at. Still quite a few games to go here, anywhere from 4 to 6 moving forward. So very intrigued to see who will be able to grab that top spot. But we look down at Mites, who are also over that mark, 7th right now, but 20 games of 30 played. This might be the closest race for the top seed in any group right now in the Elite Division, or in the Elite Division, throughout the Elite Division, even all the way down to our Neo Division. So keep an eye out on this one. I'm going to back Mites on this one. I believe in you guys. 6-3-1 in your last 10. You can make up ground. You can get it done. I believe. I mean, you could technically finish with 70 points if you get it done. 10 games, 3 points for regulation wins. Get it done. I believe Mites can do this. But as you can see here, off of points percentage, things do not change too much in terms of seeding. Actually, it stays identical throughout that bottom half of the bracket. But still, you look at points percentage, you're like, okay, that's a pretty big difference. No, I mean, 1 point right now separating 8 9. Team Infernus as well, still with 8 games to go, 5 points back and 6 points back, respectively, in terms of that race. They still very much have an opportunity to make it into the playoffs. We go to Group 2, and again, taking a look here at the top of this division. And actually, I just want to immediately sort, and as you can see, this time out, no real surprise here. We still have the top 3 as it stands, but look at how close this race is. I mean, again, just 5 points separating the top 3 teams here. Still a lot to be decided. All 3 teams winning at least 7 of their last 10 games. Another very, very close race in that way. And of course, you look at the rest of the playoff teams. The only thing changing right now is seeding based off of games played. Prowlers with just 18 games played, so still 12 to go this season. Not in the best form at 5-4-1 right now, but still a team that could make up ground moving forward. But of course, we talk about it, teams that might be able to make up ground. Cape Town Kings 8 points back, 2 games at hand away from a playoff spot. From there, though, going to be a little bit difficult for anybody else to take that step up and make up that ground. And we go to Group 3, where we have 4 teams as well over that 2-point per game mark. Rusty Bulls, who of course have been in the mix in terms of playoffs, last season, this season as well. 22 games played, 44 points. But the Silver Sword Griffins right now, 21 regulation wins. You look at the massive difference in terms of points. Mathematically, it is still possible for either Mambas or United Front to kind of make that jump, but it is very unlikely, especially with the Griffins' current form, 8 wins in their last 10 games. So look forward to seeing them in the playoffs, of course, and perhaps as the number 1 seed in Group 3. But again, you look here, only thing that changes is seeding. You don't really have too much of a difference until right here at the very end, as an opportunity to maybe make up ground. 22 games played, 30 points right now. We'll see what happens. Outside of that, though, you can see kind of the bottom 3 teams very much out of the mix at this point in Group 3 in terms of being able to make it into a playoff situation. And then we, of course, have our 4th and final group. 3 teams over that 2-point per game mark between Bushwhackers, Nameless, and Sack Brothers. And again, still a lot to play for. Sack Brothers, though, just 18 games played at this stage, but on 46 points. Their destiny very much in their hands at this stage in terms of being able to take that top seed in the group. And of course, throughout the rest of the group, you really don't have too much change in terms of the seeding, but still very much up for grabs, those final few spots. I mean, you look at Wildcats Esports, 6 points back of Palasari, an opportunity to maybe sneak in there. Depends on the form of the teams in front of them, like Palasari, just 3 wins in their last 10 games. So we'll see if they are able to make up that ground. And of course, you had a walkover team in Frenzy that, it's kind of affected things a little bit, but it all evens out in the end. So there you go. That is the standings right now. But let's take a look at these stats, because as always in these lower tiers, there are some impressive numbers. And to say the least, when you have 4 forwards already over that 90-point mark, scoring race is going to be ridiculous in this division for this season. Not only the points, but in terms of outright goal scorers, we already have 2 over 50 goals. Mr. Xbox on 48, not exactly out of the race, but again, with 2 players over 50 goals on the season so far, very intrigued to see who walks away with that goal scoring crown. So keep an eye out on that one. Defensively, 40 points already through 22 games. But of course, that scoring race very much not done yet either. Especially, we talked about the Griffins and what they're able to do. We'll see. We'll see what happens, is the only thing that I can say in regards to scoring there. And of course, the goaltenders as well. Always love trying to see just how ridiculous goaltending can be in these lower tiers, because, man, sometimes the save percentages get to be up there. In terms of your top save percentage right now, though, you have, I believe it's the Raws 94. Let me know if I'm wrong. For Polar Bears HC, though, 20 games played, 87% on the season right now. So nobody over a 90 like we had in our previous division, but certainly some numbers to keep an eye out on, some players to keep an eye out on, some teams to keep an eye out on throughout our core division. Let's take a look at the ECL's Neo division. Of course, our lowest tier, the entry point into the ECL ladder. And we will take a look at the situation right now throughout these groups. Of course, you scroll all the way down. My goodness, 6 groups, a lot of new teams in the mix here. Starting off, though, at the top of Group 1, it is still Russian Lightning at the top. HC Marco, though, very much in the mix as well. Again, where you want to be at this point in time, so keep an eye out there. We go to the top of Group 2, and right now 3 teams very much in the mix, in approaching the halfway point of the season, so keep an eye out there as well. Love to see these closer races. Group 3, well, you have Urban Evasion just running away with it at this stage. Nobody else over a 2 points per game mark, and they are closing in on nearly 3 points a game. 13 regulation wins out of 16 games played, won 8 of their last 10 games. So keep an eye out on them. They might be the favorites with a Neo in general. Group 4, though, again, another 3 teams, HC Armada, the Arctic Farm team, and Old Hogs in the mix there. We go down to group number 5, and, well, hey, you'll love to see some competition. You talk about a team that might be the favorites. Not quite. 17 regulation wins out of 18 games played for Oviedo. Tremendous. A tremendous pace, to say the least. 9 wins, of course, in their last 10 as well. And, of course, Torspot, really the only other team that's in the mix right now. Very solid percentage, very solid numbers in the early stages of the season, but or over the halfway point now, we should say. But again, tough when you are in direct competition with a team that is seemingly running away with it. And of course, our final group, another 3 teams that really focus on the real rookies. I would imagine. Now, hold on. This might be my favorite logo, is what I'm saying. Shout out to Trailblazers HC as well. I just need to. Come on. It's tough. It's tough to beat a logo like that. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Well done. Well done. That might be my favorite logo within the Neo division. Taking a look at the stats as well. Of course, we always talk about how the scoring can be a bit ridiculous. Urban Evasion probably won't be in Neo for all that long. Someone like Showtime still up there. 93 points in 16 games is just absolutely ridiculous. On the defensive side of things as well, shout out to Planet Drill, 29 points in 12 games played, leading the way right now, and still with more than half a season to go. And of course, for the goaltenders, we talk about those save percentages, and again, still some really, really solid numbers. The top 2 here, as you can see, both on 89% at this stage of the season, closing in on that 90%, which again is so difficult to attain. But that is your look at the Neo division. So with that, everybody, we will wind things down here for the wraparound. We thank you very much for checking things out. And of course, hey, as always, let me know ways to improve this show. Ways to say names correctly is always fun. Hey, as the veterans of the Elite Division know, it took Sen and I a while, but we get there eventually. You got to give us a chance to succeed. But again, thank you very much for tuning into this show. And of course, as I mentioned right off the top, we are closing in on playoff time, and we'll be right here on the wraparound to talk about everything going on throughout the ECL tiers. For now, make sure, of course, to check out everything that we talked about off the start, the PlayStation Showdown and the Leonot eHockey Open. All the information that you need at sportsgamer.gg. Until next time, thank you very much for watching the wraparound, and we'll see you next time.